I think we're live. Can you see me? Can you hear me? Check 1, 2. Yeah. What's up? How was your week? Can you hear me? Is this thing close enough to me? Yeah, no, I'm seeing meters. I'm seeing meters. Should be. Oh, we are live. What's up, Michael? Tony, Mark, Rock and Rob. Got David, Nelson, guitar guy James, Big D, Chris D, Fretless Ed, Frank C, Scott, and Zoot, and Tim, Jay Shaft. Got Chris. We got Chuck. Speaker, what's up, dude? Yeah. I really like the neck on this guitar. It's a nice slim taper neck. You know, Gibsons can be a little chunky, a little bit. I'm just saying, be a little chunky, little bit. This is who else we got? Double R guitar. We got Bryce. We got Matt, Gary, Shammy Whammy, William, Daryl, we got John, Super Lead, we got Robert, anything with this weighs, you know, it's not a super light guitar. It is a mahogany body, a mahogany neck. If I'm going to guess, I'm going to say it's in the 7s minimum, but could be in the 8s. You know, it is a Les Paul. Yeah, right. Exactly, Chuck. Listen, it's husky. Little on the husky side. Right there. There you are. There's a difference between the monitor. There's some dudes that never look at the camera. They spend the whole show staring at their screen. I'm like, who are you talking to? That's the screen. That's the camera. Used to see that at the when the pandemic started. Everyone went remote, right? And everybody was doing their show from, like, television shows from home. And you could tell that because they'd be looking at their monitor, and you could tell someone in their ear said, "Look at the camera, not the monitor." And they went, "Oh, right. Right." Oh, yeah, let's go to Flame Cam. Yeah, it's looking good. I tell you, I really dug this guitar. You play a lot of guitars, you know, and this one I really dug it. Really kind of stuck out. It's probably just because the neck is a shape I like. That's like half the battle right there. Right. You're looking for a guitar. What's up, Larry? What's up, Tim? What rig am I running? This is the Brit 87 one, which I think started out as a it's not in my patch bank because you have to buy extra crap. When I first put my patch bank out, I got a lot of, let's just say, less than happy people with the free patch bank, because it would occasionally say you don't have the product, because I would, I have a lot of the licenses for the side, for the extra crap that I get from like Ilio. And by the way, THU is still on sale as far as I know. I think I got an email recently saying it's still on sale. So speaking of Ilio. But they would say, I would open it up and it would complain that I didn't have the right equipment. And I was like, oh, right. So the last time I put the patch bank out, I went through and removed anything that didn't come stock, which still comes with like, a shit ton of crap comes with the stock version. I mean, like literally dozens of amps, dozens of cabs. There's so much. So there was plenty to choose from. And I kept switching it around. That actually took a while because I was really trying to tone match what I had from the purchase software. I usually get an NFR though. People, what the hell does NFR stand for? Not for resale, right? You get an NFR serial number, and you can, log in and get the. Right, once you enter that in, it just shows up. Yeah, and the fretboard's a little too uniform. I don't know, maybe. I usually think when they're sort of dyed, I feel like they're blacker. Right, I feel like they're darker. That's a little too brown. But you never know. Could be. Neck dive like an SG? Not really. They put the thing here. I wonder if it was up here, it would be more divey, right? That's the other thing. It sits high because the strap is down in the middle of the back of the neck. It looked like an SG, but I really liked it when they moved the button to the top on the SG. Right? We had one SG in here. I forget, was it the Modern? And they moved the button from the back, from behind the neck to here, and I swear it was better for neck dive. But no one wants to drill into their guitar. Yeah, I saw that Wayne Charvel passed away. The thing about Wayne Charvel was that he left Fender and started the Charvel repair shop in 1974. By 1978, he was bankrupt and went through a bankruptcy and sold Charvel to Grover Jackson. He was never associated with the brand after that. Charvel just never had anything to do with Charvel after 1978. So all those 80 Charvels that we all loved, that's all Grover Jackson. Wayne Charvel was, a very quick window where he was actually on the Charvel brand. Oh, I should have heated this up more. I made it earlier because I really wanted a coffee, but it's been out for a little bit. I should have heated that up. That's a little warm. Yeah, the special sauce version, exactly. Been looking at some old Model 6s. They're nice. From 86 to around 92. Those were out. Did they go past 92? I don't really know. By 90, they changed the logo to the big, what they call the toothpaste logo. And they actually, by then, Kramer is now bankrupt, and so that allows Charvel to switch to like a real licensed Floyd Rose instead of the workaround crap they had been working with, which wasn't that great. But again, in 1988, Wayne Charvel hadn't been with the brand for 10 years. Right, I have an 88 Charvel. Wayne Charvel was gone from the company literally 10 years earlier. And then, Randy Rhoads. Well, Randy Rhoads, it's kind of a funny story. Randy Rhoads was working with Grover Jackson, and he wanted to, make a special V because he already had the polka dot V made by another dude. And so, but he wanted it more angular and more offset and a little sharper. And they came up with that, which became, what was it, the Concorde? Was that? I think it was. I think it was called the Concorde. Eventually, it just became the Randy Rhoads. But I think at the time it was called the Concorde. And, because, what with the new plane out and all that. Remember, when did the plane come out? 77? Right? And it's like 1980. Like 3 years later. It's the hot new thing, Concorde. And Grover Jackson was so worried about sullying the Charvel name, which had been they were selling a lot of Super Strats at the time under the Charvel brand. And he was worried it was going to sully the name. And so he released it with the Jackson name. But turns out it was kind of a big hit. People really liked it. And of course, it had a very metal look. The Concorde, looked very... It was like a V, but even sharper and even more metal. And had the pointy headstock and all that. And it was kind of a hit. Right? Because there's this new, popular genre called, metal and hair metal. And it sort of fit that, right in. More than, the traditional guitars. Like Les Pauls and straight up Strats and things like that. Those were kind of considered a little more old and retro. And the Super Strats, companies like Kramer, companies like Jackson, and of course Charvel. But Charvel was some expensive shit in those early 80s. In the summer of 83 when I was at Berkeley, I remember some Charvels being in, and in 1983, Wayne Charvel hasn't been with the company for 5 years, right? So he's already 5 years removed from the company. But I remember they had, I want to say it was like a Heineken Strat. It was a Super Strat. Might have had one pickup, might have had two pickups with a Floyd Rose. And, I think it was a Floyd Rose. And, but it might not have been. It might have been just a regular, the Strat trem. And again, this was 1983. I want to say it was like $24.99, like $2,500 freaking dollars. That's a lot of money in 1983. A lot of money. You could buy 5 cars with that in 1983. $2,500. You're insane. Yeah, Sandoval was the other one. Right, yeah. The polka dot one, right? He had made the polka dot one. Kind of was like digging the V vibe. Yeah, Malcolm played a Gretsch. You know, they were, AC/DC was way more traditional. But then, you know, you got a guy like, you know, Steve Vai. He's playing Charvel, right? It's by Grover Jackson. But, you know, this is like 83, roughly. 83, 84. He doesn't get with Ibanez until, I want to say 87 is the launch. So he's got a window there where he's got the, what's that, the green meanie, right? His Charvel that he uses on, like, God Bless Video, right? The Alcatraz song, after he filled in when Yngwie Malmsteen left the band. Carl's still in business, is he really? Wow. Yeah, sure. Old habits die hard. Once a builder, always a builder. Yeah, Kayla tried to make some crazy trims, but, you know, Floyd Rose, he was on top of it. He knew where his money was being made, and it was in licensing and protecting his IP. So he was active. I think Fender came up with a clamping nut that had a rod that went through from one side to the other and a tension screw and a lever. Now, if you screw the tension screw down so far, you could just snap the bolt right off, which many people did, myself included. You would have to loosen it and get it so, because you didn't know how wide the strings were going to be. So it needed this you know, adjustment on one side to adjust the length of the rod. You'd set it up, get the strings right between all the little chiclets, all the little metal chiclets. Then you'd push down this lever on the bottom, and they'd all squish together and lock it in. And I think Floyd Rose got that. That only lasted 1 year, and it was gone. And I don't think it was because they were breaking screws left and right. I think it was because Floyd Rose went after them and said, "Whoa, whoa, whoa! We own the concept of a clamping nut. You can put a clamp on the headstock, but it has to be behind the nut. It can't be the nut itself." And that was the end of that. Floyd Rose, he was on top. Unlike Fender, which sat around for 50 years and then woke up one day and said, we should get money for that. Well, you know, might be a little too late. Speaking of Fender, I think if you haven't been sleeping under a rock, you've probably heard that they sent a cease and desist to Yamaha. I've heard of them. That's a brand I know. Yamaha, really. And then they countersued. The other thing is that they countersued Thomann for copyright, because if Thomann's seeking to declare the copyright invalid, you kind of have to, at least in the States, I don't know how it works in Germany, but at least in the States, if you have anything to counterclaim, you have to do it then. Right? Counterclaims are compulsory. And so I'm sure they went and, you know, the lawyers were like, you have to do this, you know. So, yeah. Exactly. You snooze, you lose. So, yeah, it'll be interesting. So a friend of mine was like, why, you know, this seems like a fruitless endeavor on Fender's part. And I said, they have everything to gain and nothing to lose. If they lose, they're in the same spot they're in right now. If they somehow win, then holy shit, they might actually be able to, like, get licensing fees, right? Or they try to settle for licensing fees. And like I said, I've been on record. I think that ship has sailed. I think. In fact, again, go and read the Dean case, which I think when I talked about the Dean case, I had it linked in there to, I think it's Scribd, right? One of the outlets that had it. They have a really good breakdown that if you have a useful article, like a guitar, even if you took away all your artwork part of the guitar, it's still a guitar, right? So at the end of the day, there's still some features that, right? You know, I have my strings on the front of the guitar, not the back of the guitar. It's like, well, no shit, because that's the way it works, right? It's like, I have the tuning pegs, you know, and not in the middle of the fretboard, but at the headstock. It's like, so some things are necessitated by design of an electric guitar. And because of that, and because it's a quote-unquote useful article, it's much stricter for copyright. You have to, like, it can't be just a common law copyright that just arises because you've made something. You actually have to register it. And the reason why Rita and the trust failed on that was because they never registered it. And they said you had X amount of years, I think it was 6 years, and you're 12 years too late. So, no, you lose for copyright because it's a useful article and you had to do it within a little window and you're past that window. So, if something that they designed in 2004, 2003, right, which I want to say is the Razorback, if the court is coming out and saying, yeah, you know, you might have had something if you registered it, but you never registered it, and too much time has passed. What's going to happen with Fender and the Strat, something that came out in 1954? They would have had to have registered the copyright by 1960. They didn't, as far as I know. So, again, the law is pretty good at punishing people that sit around for too long. What's up, Coots? Good to see you. And the other thing I just want to say before I glance back at the chat here, it's still kind of a negative public relations, you know, vibe for them. If you go to their social media, which I went to today just out of curiosity, you know, every once in a while, usually like before I come on to a show, you know, go on and say, hey, how's Fender doing today? How's it looking? It's still overwhelmingly negative. It's still pretty negative. I'd say it's like 10 to 1. It was 100 to 1, but now it's like 10 to 1. But it's still overwhelmingly negative. The other thing I noticed was on Facebook, there was like 250 likes and like 1 or 2 comments that were like, I love it. felt like an unrealistic like to comment ratio, as if maybe they were deleting comments or certainly holding them back and only allowing comments to get posted that are approved. Only approved comments actually show up on the page. So it feels like, but then today when I went on there, it was very negative. It was very negative. So clearly, if they were doing that, they stopped. Because certainly a ton of negative comments were getting through today. You know, they're like, until you stop this crap, Fender, I will never own one. You know, there's a lot of trolling going on for them right now. Yeah, it sailed past the station at night after it burned the bridge. Exactly. Does the Epi have coil splitting? I don't think so. I don't want to pull a knob off. Wait, hold on. Pull a knob off. You know, no, I don't think so. You could probably add it, but yeah, not out of the box. I think people liking what Fender's doing to bullying. That's the vibe from the comments. I would say so. You know, mainly in what is the The earlier ones were much smaller builders, like LSL, you know, even Sir. But Yamaha, Thomann, you know, those are big boys. You're in the big boys arena now. We'll see how it turns out, but I would be shocked if they really got any improvement in their position over what it is right now, which is pretty much non-existent. You have the Strat name, and like I said last week, they always protected the Strat name. They should protect the Strat name. That's valuable IP that they have protected for since its inception. Not in the headstock, same thing, absolutely, but not the body shape. You know, last week when we were talking about them sending us a cease and desist for the use of Strat, I was kind of with Fender on that. Yeah, no, that is their name. And if it's not a Fender, you should say S-Style. Absolutely. You know, and that's how, what's that big boutique, Wildwood, that's how Wildwood Guitarist does it. They, you know, if they have a whole section just on Strats, and then they have a whole section on S-Style guitars, because they don't want to ruffle any feathers with, you know, with Fender. Troll says he sees similar negative comments on Music Zoo, Andertons, people showing off new Strats. Yeah. You know, just as right now, they're sort of like a persona non grata. Now, that could change. You know, probably wouldn't hurt them to get rid of that new CEO. Yeah, we fired him. But maybe not. You know, they have maybe just a new aggressive owners that are like, you know, how many nickels can we squeeze out of this friggin' venture? And if they can squeeze even another dime, you know, they want to do it. Like I said, though, I just think legally they're kind of dead in the water. What's up, Tony? Yeah, Yamaha Corp has a big market value, and they certainly can fight. And Thomann sells like $1 billion or a couple of $1 billion worth of merch a year. They're the biggest retailer outside of the United States. So, you know, they've got some power too. But at the end of the day, you know, it's just whether or not you can afford to fight. At the end of the day, it really just comes down to the law. All the money in the world, you know, can't buy a change in precedent. And the precedent, I think, for Fender, you could just, again, look to the Dean case as to how a court thought about it, laid out all the requirements for copyright, and basically said they failed to meet those and therefore don't have a copyright claim. Their copyright claim fails. You could take those facts and assign it right into Fender. If anything, copyright was even worse back then. So, right, it was shorter durations in 1954. It's another reason why Bob Dylan sold off his catalog. His catalog actually expires a little earlier than other catalogs because they made a change in the law. I want to say it was in the 72, 74? I forget now, but they made a change, and then the Sonny Bono law in the 90s really pushed it. I want to say life of the owner plus 100 years or 95 years, something like that. Epiphone is easy to play as Gibsons. Oh, yeah. In terms of playability, there's really no difference, quite frankly. It's status. It's whether you really want a nitro finish and something that's going to, like, start to, you know, age and crack a certain way. Yeah, people want that. I was, like, loving polyester finishes because I had two guitars. I had when I first started out, I had an Ibanez Les Paul that could take a beating, and that thing wouldn't. And I got that Fender Strat, which had that nitrocellulose finish, and that Strat fell to the floor and took a giant flake of paint, just flaked right off, right down to the freaking undercoat. I couldn't believe it. I was like, huh. You know, because that finish is like glass. So, you know, there's pros and cons to nitro cellulose, you know, finishes, but the purists swear by them. Exactly. Copy wrong, bitch. I tell you, you're joking about Keith Richards, but I saw him recently because they're on a big album promotion tour. So you're going to see a shit ton of Mick Jagger and Keith Richards and Ron Wood, you know, interviews in the next few weeks. And the past couple of weeks, you know, they're all out there making the rounds. And I saw some recent stuff with Keith. You know, he's still kicking along, man. The dude's still he's doing it. And they had some great video of him, you know, actually playing in the studio. You know, playing a couple of the riffs and stuff. It was, you know, it sounded good. And some people, you know, they were kind of, they're like, it seems like you've been on a furious, like, spree. It's like, yeah, well, maybe they're hitting 80 and they're feeling like, if we don't put this album out now, it's never coming out. But they were very diplomatic. They're like, well, you know, we've been around for so long. We have a lot of material that was just never released. And we're like, let's release it now. So I kind of get it, you know. While we're alive, people. What's up, Tone Lives? Purist too, but you like your money. You'd rather have 5 Epis than 1 Gib. Yeah. A lot of people make that same calculation. They're like, and you know, and I've talked about this in videos. It's only other musicians and only other guitar players that even remotely understand, like, branding. My wife couldn't give 2 shits what guitar you're playing. It's like the last thing. You know, like a lot of people in the audience, they don't even give a shit about the music. They're more into the clever lyrics. You know, not your clever chord play. So you know, it's sort of interesting. You know, when it comes to a guitar brand, it's a pretty small audience that would even give 2 shits about what guitar you're playing. It's really just impress other guitar players, which is a pretty small segment of the market. Jagger was a bunch of World Cup matches. Yeah, you know, they're promoting a record. You know. I bet the heat is killing you. You know what? We weren't too bad this week. They thought we were going to have this big warm-up on Tuesday and Wednesday, but it got a little stymied because smoke. We had smoke from Canada coming down and blocking out the sky. And I remember going out, I think it was Wednesday, and you could smell it. It was like a friggin' hickory pipe out there. I was like, whoa. You could really smell it. And then they thought it was going to be worse on Thursday, and it actually wound up not being. But both days they were predicting much higher temperatures, but the sun shield from the smoke kept the temps down a little bit. And then yesterday, Friday, it's actually pretty dry for the summer around here. We don't get down into the dew points below. The dew point around here, like it is right now, is like 65. But yesterday it was like 48, 49. That's dry for around here. That's about as dry as it ever gets. And man, I even had I had the air conditioning off, had the window open. The cats were loving it. They're up in the window. Hey, speaking of the window, remember I had the cat that kept coming and pissing at the window, and I put the spikes out? The day I put the spikes out, the cat was out there, came by. And I said, oh my God, the spikes don't work. He's never come back. That was the last day. Never. And I've seen the cat. I've seen the cat walk across the front yard. I've seen the cat cut through the backyard. Cat has not come back to the window again. So my little spike flooring out there that I laid down is definitely working, without a doubt. And we had 2 cats. And then my cat, not the girl cats, but Buddy, Buddy smells their piss. He's like, oh yeah, well I got pissed too. And he's spraying the windows. Like, whoa. He's like literally in a pissing contest with this cat. I'm like, no, can't do this. So that my little spike thing there totally worked. I think it worked for the squirrels too, not because it kept them from jumping on it, but because it was uncomfortable to lean over, and it was too little food for too much work. And eventually they just gave up. What's up, Vintage Sounds? Wildfire smoke here in Michigan was really bad. Yeah. Well, it kind of blew. We had a north wind come in. That's why our air was so dry. And it kind of, yesterday, and it kind of blew everything south. So I think the heavy plume is down like New Jersey, New York, down that way. And but they said it might come back up again. We'll see. What's going to happen is we're going to get rain. We had a little bit of rain today. We've been super dry. We're in such a drought. But we had a little bit of rain today, and we're going to get another round later. And that rain has a great way of just ripping all the smoke right out of the air, pulling particulates out of the air, dragging them right down to the ground. Plus, it generates ozone, which also gets rid of smoke, right? So, 92 and a 44 dew point. Oh my God, we only dream about that. It would be 92, but that would be 74, not 44. And when you walked outside, it would be like you stepped in someone's mouth, like a punch to the face. You're like, God, I hate it. Nice, we'll get some cats that adopt us. Since our dog passed away, they just eat and piss and leave. Yeah, that's about right. Oh, my parents were feeding the strays, and the strays, they were spraying around the food, and I said, they're all trying to claim this food dish as their own. You can feed them, but I wouldn't feed them on the front porch. Can't you put this food, make a little lean-to in the backyard and just put it out in the yard so that they're not, because they're spraying, because my parents were just putting it out on the front porch, so they could put it out in the rain. It would be nice and dry. But no, they had a stray Russian blue that my dad named Churchill. God, that cat did look like Winston Churchill. And, what a cat. What a magnificent cat. And my dad could never get near him until he was dying. And my dad took him down and had him put down. Felt bad for him. Said, can't let him suffer. He could barely walk. He's like, he's in trouble. I want the crispy air back. Same here. I'm kind of done. What's up, Paul? It's pouring on Long Island. That's headed this way. It rained a little bit. We got about a quarter inch earlier today, but they're saying the stronger one, which is the actual cold front, it will be coming through tonight. At first they were like, it's going to come through at like 7, which is like right now. It's not even close. It's more like 9:30, 10:30 it's going to come through. Michigan's going to get another round of smoke, yeah. See, what they need up there is a dose of rain, but I think they're in a drought too. The only thing that's going to knock out those wildfires is going to be a good shot of rain. Maybe it might even go to the friggin' winter until they get a snowpack. Yeah, Florida's pretty miserable this time of year. Florida can get dry in the winter. I was down in Florida in I forget if January or February, and it was nice, but that's pretty rare. We went in April when the kids on April vacation, and man, the dew point was in the 70s. It was pretty muggy, even for April. Some of those strays have ended up being the best pets. Yeah. Grateful to find a home. Oh, I'm sure. Oh no, you can make friends with strays. That's for sure. But then they're gonna break your heart because it's such a tough life for them. They usually don't last very long. What's up, Assad? I know, really, it's does feel like smoke on the water. It's been so friggin' smoky out there. And I knew, because like the night before they were saying we were going to get all the smoke and the sunset, you can see it in the sunset sunlight, because instead of being like, orangey white, it's red. It's much, much redder. You can literally see it in the cams. Hey, Steve, got the same guitar from Sweetwater. Nice. Did you get the same color, too? Hey, good news. Brian Setzer is well enough to tour with the Stray Cats again. Nice. I know he had, was it a muscle thing? I forget now. I forget what his ailment was, but I had heard he was hurting and going through something. He was in an interview recently, and they were asking about players, and he mentioned RJ Ronquillo. He's like, yeah, there's a guy from Carter Vintage Instruments I really like. This guy RJ Ronquillo. And my RJ, he's a young guy. Of course, RJ's in his 40s. My RJ's like young. I'm like, take it. Just take it. Do. Mr. Nashu says he has the exact same guitar in cherry red. Nice. What's funny is if you go and get the Gibson one with the binding and everything, it's kind of pricey. Like $4Gs. They're up there. They're only in the custom shop, They don't really have the stripped down one in the regular production line. I mean the fancy one. They only have the stripped down one in the in the regular production line. So a little pricey. They're up there. Dog guy says, same color. I like it. Good feeling neck. Yeah, I agree. Great feeling neck. Top on mine is way nicer. Yeah. Wow. I think it's just random, right? Because it is real wood. It's just a thin veneer. And if you ever see them, you ever see those guys make veneer woods? It's pretty amazing. It's basically like a giant, like, you know, trying to think, like a mandolin, right? It like slices off a sheet one at a time with this, like, it's pretty crazy. And then when they take the sheet, they get it nice and wet, and it's pretty soft. And then they can apply it, they get it down. And then once it dries, they can, you know, clean up the edge with the binding. And if there's any problem, they cover it with black anyway. But it is real wood. Just a pretty thin piece of it. But veneering has been around in the furniture industry frickin' forever. Do they have one with a Floyd? Wait a minute, they might, because they did that with the Gibson Victory. I get the Gibson Victory in, and the next thing you know, they have one with a frickin' Floyd Rose on it. I don't think so. But unlike the Victory, this is a fairly traditional guitar, 3 on a side. Unlike the Victory's, you know, 6 on one side, and the Victory's basically like a sort of like a Strat, a nod to the Strat. Ether Boy says current dew point is 73. Is that bad? Yeah, that's pretty bad. That's pretty muggy. That's a lot of moisture. If you want a tremolo, just get an Alex Lifeson LP. Yeah, that's, what is that? The Axis? Are these pots low or high friction? Somewhere in between. They're not high friction, but they're certainly not low friction either. They're like in between. Not quite as fast as, like, say, a Strat CTS, but I've had some Volas with really slow pots, because they buy these high-end pots, and, you know, people just equate a slow roller with high-end. You know, or they pack them with grease or something. I don't know what the thing is, but there's this whole, like, lot of friggin' potentiometers that are pretty slow rolling, which is great for a tone knob, but not so great for volume knob. It's medium friction. It's at a medium pace. It does sound good, though. A great sounding pickups in it, you know. So yeah, we had the Smoky Skies this week. They say we might see it again, but who knows? You know what I haven't done yet, because I've been so freaking busy, so I haven't shot the Guitar of the Week yet. I'm going to have to shoot it tomorrow, I think. But it's funny, because someone in the comments on a recent video, might not have been last week's video, but it just recently had mentioned a guitar. You know, if you can get one of these, see if you can get it. It just, and again, I had already ordered the guitar before they said that, right? Because I'm so far ahead. But I actually happen to have one here, so I'll probably do that for Monday. It would make it look like it was a quick turnaround, but it wasn't really. More of a coinky dink. Dew point is 69. Nice. You've been playing a little bit more in the last couple of weeks? Yeah, I've been playing a tiny bit more. I tell you, my bushes out front, I never trimmed them last year. So they're really out of control this year. And so I finally got out there, and they're so tall, I have to stand up on a platform, that I have. And plus with a big extended pull friggin' set of, hedge trimmers. But I literally got up at like 7 yesterday because I knew it was going to be nice and dry and just gorgeous out. And there'll be a point in the midday where I'm in like direct sun and I'm not going to want to be out there and working. So I said, do a lot in the morning and then do a lot after the sun gets over the tree line. And you're in the shade again. And that's exactly what I did. And I had a huge freaking tarp just full of friggin' brush. And this morning I got up again around 7:30 and got out to the car and actually got the trailer hooked up to it and pulled it down the driveway a little bit because it's so much easier to drag the tarp up into the back than being like all the way down the end of the driveway. You can't really get behind it. Didn't take much at all. Dragged it right up on the back. Went up to the dump and my wife was with me. And she's like, well, I'm sure there's going to be no traffic. We get up there. There's no traffic on the street, but it's right up to the entranceway, and there's a line of cars. And I'm like, you cannot be serious. It's like 8:20 in the morning, and you've got a freaking line of cars. But it was a woman. They've been so busy, they're suspecting that people are showing up to dump stuff that don't have, they don't live in the town. Right, they come from a town next door and they don't have a dump, and so they want to come there and just go through. No one's ever going to check them. Well, they've started a check, and this woman didn't have. You can either do it two ways. You either need a sticker, or you have to have a license that shows that you live within the town, or a registration. You have to have something that shows that you live in the town, and she didn't. And he made her pull over and turn around. And this woman was losing her frickin' screaming out the window. F you. How are you treating me? It's like, it's like... This guy's rolling his eyes, but he didn't let her in. And we get down there, and there's already a big line, which I can't believe, but at least it's pretty far down. They turn around. It took us 25 minutes to get through that freaking line. I'm like, oh, you cannot even be serious. So we dumped the brush, did that first. Got on the line, dumped a bunch of crap that we have because we're on a big friggin' mission to clear out as much crap as we can. And then we had a whole bunch of cardboard. It was a very successful trip. And I just renew my love of that friggin' trailer. It's been awesome. Sometimes you gotta scream, I know. Exactly. I'm never going to recommend the dump to anyone. I tell you, you don't. A few weeks ago, it was so ballistic, they figured out that people were just going there and just dumping crap, and they've cracked down. And that was what you saw today. You saw the side effects of cracking down. Oh, this woman was losing her freaking mind. But he was like, whatevs, you're not going in. Exactly. Oh my God, like the old Costco story, yeah. Sounds good, right? Your town requires a dump sticker. Yeah, so the problem with my town is the dump stickers never expire. All right, there's no expiration date on them. Because I don't want to spend the money on handing out stickers every, 12, 24, even 60 months. I have had my dump sticker for like friggin' 20 years. I think I got it as soon as we moved in. We moved in 25 years ago. So maybe I've had it 22, 23 years. And so, people just, when they move out of the town, they keep the sticker because it's a free way to dump stuff. Or they get it from somebody else, right? They peel it off and they give it to somebody else. There's no expiration on it. So even if you had a sticker, for a couple of weeks, they were checking everybody to make sure you had a license that matched the town or registration that matched the town. And if you didn't, no go. Yeah, the little LP. It's really for one song, Little Guitars. Pretty much it. Yeah, exactly. You need a driver's license. But see, sometimes people move into the town and they don't get their driver's license address updated, but they get their registration updated because you have to pay excise taxes in the town. And there's all kinds of penalties for not paying your excise tax. So you got to get it registered for your town, usually. And so that usually happens, I think, faster than your license, because your license, you'll just change it, or you'll get a change of address. They just put a sticker on the back. So a lot of times, people don't do the license right away. You dump checks ID like a driver's license. Yeah, again, it has been kind of mayhem there recently. I don't remember it ever being really that busy. Except one time they only had 2 spots where you could dump leaves, and the line was down the street. And they finally took the front loader and spread it all out wide. And now they had 5 slots, and it took, right. You could easily get a half dozen cars on the pile. Maybe more like 10, right? Because it's so wide. But for a little while there, they had it all blocked off because they were doing this work, and then it was just down to 2, and that was as crazy as I've ever seen it. You have the claw truck that comes once a month, and you can throw anything you want and they'll take it. Oh my God. So it used to be, before we switched to managed disposal, where you get a town issued container and you can't exceed that container. And if you want a more than one container, you have to pay for it. We could do that. We could throw as many barrels out there as we had. You got a half dozen barrels full, you throw a half dozen barrels out. If you got a couch, you just leave it on the side, they throw the couch out, You could put anything right out on the curb and they would take anything. Every week, they would take anything. And as long as it wasn't builder's waste, that was the one thing they cracked down on. Like, they're like, get a dumpster if you're remodeling your kitchen. But other than builder's waste, it was pretty much a free-for-all. When we switched to the managed disposal, where you had your town-sanctioned, single disposal unit, we had a cutoff date. They're like, you can put anything out on the curb up until, like, say, June 30th. And then after that, starting July 1, right? This was like 20 years ago. It looked like a goddamn flea market around here. It looked like everyone was having a yard sale because everybody was throwing... Those poor sons of bitches those last couple of weeks. I mean, they must have gone through a half dozen trucks a day because there was so much out on the street for those last couple of weeks. And then finally, the new system started. But man, people were absolutely taking advantage of the final 2 weeks. Because I remember driving out going, is everybody throwing a freaking couch out? I mean, couch after sofa after couch and chairs and couches and tables. And just like every house looked like a freaking yard sale. I said, whoa, wow. Well, you can tell the change is on the way. The car is free too. I am jealous of people that have the leaf pickup. Guys like, yeah, you know what? I just have to blow all the leaves out to the curb. And the town comes by with a truck and they suck it all up and they mulch it and they dispose of it all. I'm like, I'm going to live in that town. That frickin' sounds awesome. The city made the same change. Yeah, you reduce the services, but not the taxes. Yeah. Oh, I think because the cost of disposal went up, they said, well, if you switch to a managed volume where everyone gets a single barrel and that's it, you'll have a better handle on what your disposal costs will be. Because it's probably by like the cubic yard or something, So, yeah. Oh, I had friends that lived in towns where you had to use town-approved leaf bags, and they weren't cheap, or you had to use town-approved trash bags. You couldn't use any other trash bag other than the town-approved trash bag, which you had to buy from the town. I'm like, what a racket. A friggin' racket. Nothing depreciates faster than a couch. Yeah, that's why when I got this one here, I bought it off of Amazon. It was delivered to my door in a single box. It basically unfolded and you attached the sides to it. But other than that, it was pretty much, maybe it was 2 pieces, but maybe it was 2 boxes. I forget now. But that was $225 delivered. That's about right. My son's all like, for his dorm, he wants to get, not his dorm, he got an apartment out in Amherst. He's going out to UMass Amherst. And, he's like shopping for stuff. I said, just go to YouTube, Amazon and friggin' buy a $250 couch. And that back folds down. That turns into a futon. They come and take our grass clippings, tree limbs, leaves. Wow. All year, every Thursday. Oh my God. I want to live where you live. It does. See? That would just make my life so much easier than having it. The whole reason I got the frickin' trailer is because I did for friggin' yard waste management. Nice haircut. Yeah, you like that? It had been so long since I had my hair cut. I finally went, the hair. I said, you can make a wig. Getting wiggy with it. Oh, I finally went and got a haircut. I'll get another one before Christmas. Anyone get caught up in the explosive diarrhea? Luckily, I don't really eat Taco Bell, though we have been going to Whole Foods recently because we get that Too Good to Go. Remember that place? You get like $150 worth of food for $10. So we got loaded up and we got the pre-made, and the pre-made is like pre-made salads, but they're not. They're all deconstructed in separate pouches and separate areas. So, you know, you take out this, and they keep the salad separate. But my God, I had a Greek salad from them. It was amazing. It was so good. I had a Caesar salad, chicken Caesar salad that was really good. And my wife had the other chicken Caesar. She goes, that salad was like really good. I said, no, amazing. But we've been a little worried. Like, I said, oh, you notice an explosive diarrhea? Huh. Doesn't sound good. So we've been good. No one here's had it. But I think they trace it. At first, they didn't know where it was. They thought it might be raspberries, but I think they're kind of tracing it to this one lettuce farm. And they have shipped lettuce. Massachusetts was on the list as states to receive some of the lettuce. So let us pray that we don't get explosive diarrhea. It's like I've been losing weight over the summer, a little bit. Someone said, they're like, dude, you look thin. Are you on Ozempic? Is that the only way people can lose weight? Fucking people. Well, it's either that or the summer. I eat less in the summer. I don't have an appetite in the summer like I do in the winter. It's not even close. And of course, I'm a lot more active in the summer, too. Yeah. Exactly. Romaine calm. Now you're talking. Because, well, what happens is that it's spread through feces, and what happens is the animals get it, and it gets into the water supply. And then they're spraying down, right? They're watering their crops with this literally shit-laden water, and they contaminate and all the washing in the world, sometimes is ineffective enough. And so they wind up, selling contaminated lettuce. Exactly. Now it comes with a side of ammonium AD. Ice cream and chips are my weakness, yeah, especially combined. Got to get that ice cream with the chocolate-covered potato chips in it. It's a good one. Bryce says, I'm exactly the same. I sweat more. Oh, my God, yes. And eat much less when it's hot. Oh, I have no mood to eat in the summer. Even my wife said, she goes, for how little you eat, you should be a lot thinner. I'm like, oh, thank you? What are you saying? Yeah, exactly. Nobody has an appetite when it's 90. Oh my God, it would be my summer weight. If I got the cyclosporin now, the weight loss regimen. Yeah, I lost friggin' 20 pounds overnight. Mostly water out my ass. Terry says he's down at 225 from Ozempic, really? Started in December when you were 255, but that's a combination, right? And less food take. Yeah, cool. Now, do you feel like your appetite is decreased from it? Is it because I'm not sure how it works. Is it slows absorption of sugar? Is that kind of its primary? Because I think it's prescribed for diabetes, right? Yeah. Right across the city of San Lin. There you go. Always in Nipa, yeah. Everyone knows somebody who got sick from eating Taco Bell. I didn't get sick from eating Taco Bell, and maybe it was this leftover chicken that my wife had made that I didn't maybe reheat it enough. I don't know. The chicken was from like the day before. But she also brought home a burrito from Bo Loco. And man, I was up all night with the shits. I mean, that was probably 10 years ago. No, it had to be more. It was like, oh, geez, 14 years ago. Yeah, it probably would have been about 2012, roughly 2013. Yeah, that sounds about right. Oh, the worst. And I remember I was supposed to have this conference the next morning. And I called them and said, hey, I was up all night with food poisoning. I can probably talk, but we either have to make it quick or we can reschedule. And they're like, yeah, we saw the documentation. We're fine. We're good. I was like, okay, good. We're all good. Patrick says he's down 125 from Manjaro. So that's for weight loss, right? The Manjaro. Right? In other words, Ozempic, I don't think is prescribed for weight loss. Even though people equate it with weight loss, it's really a diabetes drug, right? But Manjaro is not. Like, what's the other one? Like Wegovy and Zepbound. The ads for these, because everybody is trying to push it. It's the new Viagra, right? So there's a lot of telemedicine going on. They're like, we probably have a doctor that will prescribe it for you. Just give us a call and pay out the ass, and we'll get you whatever you need. Was it the lettuce? I think on the Taco Bell thing, the recent one, they traced it to Taylor Farms. I think that was it. Taylor Farms out of California. Had a close call. I was thinking about Taco Bell before this news came to light, but thankfully avoided any fast food. Yeah. Well, like I said, we had a bunch of salads from Whole Foods that came in those, packs. And, we had sandwiches. I had like I had this amazing roast beef wrap. It had like horseradish. Like, it's mayonnaise, but they call it aioli. Which is like friggin' Italian for mayonnaise. Or oil. Aioli, please. It's mayo. It's friggin' flavored mayo. And that was really good. So friggin' good. Nothing's worse than a bad clam, yeah. Oh, you gotta be careful there. Or bad, when I was a kid, I got food poisoning from Chinese food. And it, kind of turned me off to Chinese food for a long time. That was real bad. Yeah, Trulicity, that's the other one. But some of these, they're prescribed different ways, at least I can see from the ads. Regarding Ozempic, it retards your digestive system. Okay, it slows down I got it right. Related to slowing it down, too. It also affects your. Yeah, well, I think if it would slow down your digestive system, you're just gonna not get hungry as quickly. But do you get constipated? You know what I'm saying? It's like, I would think that could lead to its own problems. Yeah, Kelly Osbourne looks like she's dying. Well, the funny thing is like Pete from Anderson's there. He he's lost a lot of weight because he quit alcohol, and he which that alone for a lot of people is a huge change, because if you're drinking beer, you're definitely consuming like a lot of carbs, right? Beer is fattening. And the same with like sweet drinks, right? So alcohol can absolutely pack on pounds. So he gave up alcohol, and he had been trying to eat right and do a little bit more exercise. He's lost a lot of weight. He lost a lot of the pudginess out of his face. Everybody's like, "Oh man, get off the Mounjaro, get off the Ozempic," and he's like, "What do you know? Is that where we're at now? If someone loses weight, it's always because you cheated, you did, it's like maybe he just ate less. Maybe he's like me. In the summertime, you're not as hungry. You just don't eat as much." Rick says, I'm on Wegovy. Wow, I'm shocked at how many people in the chat are actually using this. I'm on Wegovy. That's what we're talking about. I just got on. So you just got on. Okay. Ozempic and Wegovy are the same. Okay, so it's the same. That's semaglutide. I just made that up. No. Ozempic is for diabetes. Wegovy is for weight loss. Same as Mounjaro and Zepbound. Oh, I see what you're saying. So it's the same active ingredient, but maybe it's a different dosage. Low dosage for sugar and high dosage for weight loss. Rick says he lost 23 pounds in 2.5 months. So that's pretty good. You want to lose too fast. If you lose weight too fast, you can get like hair loss. There's all kinds of side effects from rapid weight loss. Yeah, beer is known as liquid bread. There's a loaf of bread in every sip. Yeah, so Wegovy is just the name for Ozempic prescribed for weight loss. So that's interesting. It almost feels like maybe they're like, well, some plans will allow for weight loss, but not. I would think they're less likely to allow for weight loss and more likely to allow. I'm talking about insurance plans, at least here in the States, and less likely to allow for, right? Because they're going to deem that cosmetic, even though we know there's a shit ton of adverse health effects from obesity. But whatever. Let's assume it's all just vanity, right? That they won't cover it, but they will cover Ozempic, right? So you just say, yeah, it's for sugar control because he's got diabetes. Right? This game in the system. Okay, so David says, I've been taking Zepbound for a year. Lost 100 pounds. Holy shit. Dude, that's impressive. And lost the desire for foods that you used to love. It's mixed feelings, but you feel much better. Yeah. Yeah, you almost have to kind of like mourn what used to make you happy, which is having like a really good meal. Maybe just cut it. Now, just for the people that are on that are taking it, if you wait long enough, and that's how the weight loss works. If you wait long enough, do you get hungry enough where you could eat a big meal and like be really happy and satisfied with it? Like go out to like some like great restaurant and get like a friggin', I'm spending $150 and I'm getting the tomahawk steak. I'm getting the lobster claw. Right? You start to go a little kooky. And you know what I'm saying? Or it's like, no, it makes me, like, in other words, you couldn't even get through it. You start to get a little nauseous because you fill up too quickly. I'm kind of fascinated by it. So William says he gets Mounjaros for diabetes. Oh my God, I am just shocked at the number of people in the chat. It's wow. Yeah. Insurance, they look at comorbidities. Yeah, well, see, that's where I would think with obesity, that's a bigger health threat than diabetes, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe diabetes is much worse in terms of comorbidities. You know? In other words, if you have high blood pressure, high cholesterol, plus obesity, right? If you can get high blood pressure and cholesterol under control by taking the weight loss drug, it kind of gets your system like in a better place metabolically. Yeah, I could see them approving it. Nicest looking Epiphone I've seen. Yeah, look at this thing. Yeah. Beautiful. And it sounds good too. You think you're gonna like the meal, but then you get sick of it halfway through. Right. You start out with the the greatest of intentions. You're like, I am finishing this, and you get halfway through it, and you're like, okay, new plan. Take half of it home. I've been there. I tell you, my wife and I went out a couple of weeks ago for lunch, and we went to the Friendly Toast, and we both got sort of like breakfast items, and we got a flight of espresso martinis or something, or it's like they're like espresso drinks, right? So they're alcohol drinks, right? And oh my God, some of those drinks were so delicious. But I started drinking those drinks. I hadn't really eaten, and the table had this like polka dot pattern on it. I swear to God, I was getting the spins from it. I had to look away. I had to like look away from the table because it was making me sort of nauseous to even like look at the table. And I was like, oh my God, this food can't come out freaking fast enough. Because as you eat the food, it starts to pull the alcohol, right? It's a totally different situation. I stopped drinking. I was like, you know what? I'm not feeling well. We got these like, we got an appetizer, and by the time I was done with the appetizer, I couldn't eat another bite. I was like, you know what? This is all going horribly, horribly wrong. I'm just going to stop. And I took my stuff home, you know, my meal home, and I couldn't even eat the rest of the day. That alcohol just screwed me up so bad. And I had it the next day, and it was delicious. It does sound good, without a doubt. Sharp guitar, great price. I didn't think I'd like the Cherry SG Special P90. Nice. Not recently, but the cherry face is growing on me, sure. Oh yeah, you did the warm audio mystery box. You got a Centavo. Nice. I'm too risk averse. I'll be like, yeah, you watch. I want to get some compressor I don't even want. Oh yeah, the original Friendly Toast in Portsmouth. So yeah, it's like the old D'Angelo's in Dedham. It was like the original one. They turned into a big freaking chain. D'Angelo's used to have like literally, we go like a single location in Dedham Square. I'm 69 years old. I don't remember that many overweight people back in the 60s and 70s. Well, I don't think there's a couple of reasons for that. One, people ate more protein back then and more straight up vegetables. And it was the rise of junk foods, like snack foods, and what I would call food science, right? There's this whole, like, there's all, if you talk to people that are in the industry, it's like you never want to be around the edges of the supermarket. That's where all the perishable stuff goes. Bread, meat, dairy, right? Things like that. That's always around the edge. In the middle, and all the long-term, right? Canned items, bottled items, you know, things in bags that have a very long shelf life. If you're in the perishable business, you want a long time. And that's where food sciences sort of come in and come up with ways to create foods that have a long shelf life, even though they're not necessarily all that healthy for you. I think back then, people didn't quite eat, you know, like they do today, right? There's not nearly as much variety, right? And it's like not nearly as much food science as like there used to back then as there is now. Yeah, much more processed foods. And they're finding a correlation between processed foods and dementia a little bit. You know, I mean, there has to be studies. You have to do a long-term look at it, but there's growing evidence that, you know, a life of frozen pizzas isn't good for your brain. Their parents grew up in the Depression era. Absolutely. Absolutely. That has a lot to do with it, too. You know, learn to get by with what you have because that's all you got. Yeah, nice. Exactly. Nice Danglos. Good old D'Angelo's. Yeah, I saw that. Mickey D's bringing back the fried apple pies. So when they switched, and the reason why they switched was because people were burning their mouths on it. And I think after the coffee cup incident, right, with a woman who was really injured in that, where that woman had the scalding burns from the coffee, they looked at other products that could have potential for that, and the deep fried apple pie was one of them. So they switched to one that wasn't as dangerous, and it was up to the franchisee whether or not they wanted to, switch to the new one or keep the old one. And everybody switched to the new one except for a handful. One of the few places left that had the old one was the old one on Mass Ave next to Berklee College of Music. And that you could go into that McDonald's and they still had the deep fried apple pie. And when they finally closed, and I think Berklee bought the building and put up their big student center, when that closed, one of the sort of the interesting tidbits about the closing of that McDonald's was they were the only one left in the entire state that still made the deep fried apple pie. And now they're gone. That was the end of that. People should be buying groceries every few days like in Europe. You know, I had a client once, and who I was always fascinated by. He used to get up in the morning and take his kids to school, and on the way home, he would buy the day's groceries. Like, he was just in that habit. Go drop the kids at the school. Go down to the store and buy. Think about what you're going to prepare for a meal for the day. What the food was. Get the fresh food for that meal. And then repeat the whole process the next morning. He didn't really keep a lot of food at home. He would literally buy the day's food, like literally that day. And I was like, that's crazy. Had 2 fried apple pies this week. Wow. Oh, yeah, so they have to have a dedicated fryer. That might have been another cost problem, right? Because you had to have a dedicated fryer for it, else they would taste too much like French fries. Buying meat daily would be a good idea. Yeah, I think that was his whole thing. He'd walk around and get ideas what he wanted for dinner. Oh, maybe quite frankly, just buy stuff on sale, right? Whatever looked good. And he would look. And I said, well, did you ever buy it for like 2 days? He's like, no, I really don't. He goes, I'm just sort of locked into the habit. I'm like, all right. Oh, okay. Honestly, forgot about those pies, so you guys mentioned it. I feel like Popeyes has a similar pie, but it might not be apple. It might be like peach or strawberry or something. Peach? I feel like it's peach. Like, because it's southern. It's kind of how I've been eating a lot lately. Small meals through DoorDash. Yeah. You know who lost a ton of weight was Krell Bar. Remember Krell Bar? Well, Krell Bar was a pretty big guy. A couple of years later, I did another video. When he walked in, now it was during the pandemic, so he was wearing a mask. I was like, who the fuck are you? It's like, it's Krell Bar. What? He had lost like 150 pounds. And I said, dude, I'm shocked. It was like shocking amount of weight loss. How did you do it? And he did it through daily fasting. He goes, I cut my window of eating down to about 6 hours a day. Between like 2 p.m. and 8 p.m. or like noon and like 6 p.m. And that's it. And he goes, that's really worked for me. He goes, but you've got to be militant. He goes, you can't cheat. It's like a no-cheat diet. So he goes, yeah. He goes, I pretty much eat what I want. But he said, but if I was really careful when I ate and actually ate really healthy foods, I'd lose even more weight. He said, but I didn't have to. He goes, I could pig out in those 6 hours and, I would still kind of keep my blood sugar regulated because I was going through such a long fasting time. And by the time I ate, your stomach shrinks enough that you actually fill up faster. So there's quite a few benefits to it. Again, the proof is in like 2 years, he had lost like 150 pounds. I was like, whoa, that is crazy. If it's super damn hot, set aside. Well, we used to break ours open, right, and release the heat. Right, you try to break it without burning your hand, and just let it steam off, and then you could eat it. The biggest mistake you could make is to bite into one end of it, because it just squirts out. It's completely hot. It's super hot, dead center. Keto diet work best for you. I have lost a ton of weight on keto. And if you think about it, that's how a lot of these weight loss drugs work, right? They prevent the uptake of, they make you less insulin resistant, and they prevent the uptake of sugar. Right? Kind of how keto works, right? You just limit the amount of sugar and carb you take, and all you got left is protein and fat. And but your brain only runs on sugar, so you convert fat to sugar, which is why if you eat too much sugar, you get fatty liver disease, because your liver never converts the fats into sugar. Honestly, it's really about calorie to output. Like I said, yeah. Sit on the PC all day and eat, a couple thousand calories, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, if there's anything I really need to do is I need to work out more, because I feel it when I do yard work. My God, holding that, I was fine to start out, but by the end of the day, holding that friggin', that hedge trimmer above my head, like, hour after hour. I'm like, my arms are friggin' killing me. I think working out would help with that. Right, wouldn't have the burn out my friggin' muscles so fast. You had a burger from Saltgrass Steakhouse, aged beef, like years ago. Yeah, flavor of the meat was so good. We have a place, the Capitol Grill, that'll do that. They have an aged, like, Wagyu beef, burger that's, like, incredible. It's also $36. That's a hell of a burger. Yeah, Ozempic and those others. Kind of based on ketosis, yeah. Right, starve the system of sugar. Basically what Atkins figured out, he's like, if you starve the body of sugar, you can do pretty well with weight loss. I mean, I did it in... I did it in 2012. I went on a really big Atkins keto thing for about a year. I lost 100 pounds. Yeah, the cordless hedge trimmers are so heavy. So I had one corded that I used down low because it was just stronger and it ripped right through it. And then I would save the cordless one for only the higher stuff because it had an extension pole and it was longer. So I didn't have to use the cordless one for more than about half, maybe a third of the bush. But, I'm standing up on friggin' ladders and friggin' platforms to get to the... I mean, it's up there. My bushes are like 9 to 12 feet tall, 6 batteries to cut your hedges. Oh my God. Oh, right, to cut the edges. Right on. Oh, with a weed whacker. I got you, yeah. If you can and enjoy walking. Yeah, well, I think any kind of exercise will help boost it. Right? It's not... I'm sure they tell you that when you take any one of those weight loss drugs. I'm sure they're like, you know, along with a healthy diet and, you know, sensible exercise, because they have to put that in there. But I'm sure it does. I'm sure it does. Exactly. Everyone loves a trimmed bush. So I told you I've been a little kooky looking at those mini excavators. And you know who's like one of the cheapest ones for them is Walmart. About $5,000 delivered. Some of them you'll see them on like AliExpress, and they're like $99 and $10,500 delivery fee. But the Walmart ones are like $4,500 to $6,000, whole bunch of different models, and free shipping. It takes about a week. Nice guitar for $600. Yeah, and this one was actually a little less because it was an open box. This was actually a little under $500. I think it was $495 or $497, something like that. But you know, if you didn't want an open box, if you wanted brand new, yeah, $599 I think is right. It is a nice guitar though. Walmart excavator. Well, it's not branded Walmart. Oh no, it's all these Chinese ones, you know. But you can find there's a cottage industry of you know, people on YouTube that buy mini everything, mini speedboat, you know, mini friggin' race bike, you know, all these little mini things and mini excavators. Exactly. They're going to mark this up. Played by Steve. Do you have one that wasn't played by him? Sure. They do. They have a blue one also. I think it's Ocean Blue or Blue Ocean. Something like that. Exactly. Now I need a new series. Excavator Tuesdays. Exactly. So I've been messing around with that Odin portal, the Odin 2 portal. And I tell you, it's been pretty good. It's got so much more processing power than anything else I have. It's pretty good. And then the other cool thing is it has a 120 hertz screen. And there are some like tricks you can do when you do like black frame insertion, where the game runs at 60 frames a second. But because the screen runs at 120 frames per second, every other frame is inserts as a black frame. And what that does is it sort of resets the LCD panel in between every frame. So there's no ghosting, right? There's no blur. right? It looks like super crisp and super sharp. And it's noticeable. The problem is that black frame insertion, when every other frame is black, your brain perceives that as being dimmer, right? Because everything just looks a little bit dimmer. And so they have another way around it where they do this like, they use like these shaders, and you can turn on like, it's like a black frame insertion, but it uses a different method. The result is pretty much identical, except it's not so dark. It's just lighter. It just looks more like you don't have it on. And it just looks like, much, much, much brighter. But I tell you, man, you can notice, you can see how smooth like the little characters are when they move around. It really does smooth everything out. Pretty amazing, actually. Yes, leave a little note in the back. Send $10 to P.O. Box. See how much money shows up. It's a nice DC, but I think you like the vibe of the special. Yeah, with the P90s, yeah. Yeah, I could have gone P90, but I don't think they had one on clearance. Like I said, I try to work off the clearance as much as I can. In fact, I don't like it when they send me new. I'm kind of down on it. Exactly, none more black. What games do I play? I usually play like the classic, arcade games, things like Donkey Kong, Frogger, Centipede, Galaga, and I like the vertical scrollers, like all the 4X series, like 1940, 1941, 1942, I think they have 43, 44, right? They have one every year. It's a little variation on pretty much the same exact game. I like those. Of course, Double Dragon. That's a classic. Then when I'm on the Amiga platform, I'll do like Menace, Magic Pockets. There's a handful of games that are kind of fun, that, kind of nostalgic for me. On DOS, I like all the Dangerous Dave. Man, I remember playing those in like the summer of '92. I discovered Dangerous Dave, and an old PC DOS game. Man, I ripped through that whole game. Like, one of the few games I completed. I love the Dangerous Dave stuff, which is all like dark humor, right? You die in very, over the top ways. It's really funny. Yeah, kind of like a Les Paul Special, flat top. Unique pickguard. That's a nice way of putting it. I would say the number one negative I heard about this guitar was people didn't like the pickguard. I'd say that would be the number one negative I heard. They liked everything about it. They weren't crazy about the pickguard, but I can't control that. I don't know if that comes off either, or if there's like stuff underneath it. There's too many holes. If you took it off, I think it's not gonna look right. Commander Keen, yeah. What's the other one? Contra. There's a whole bunch out there. And then on like PSP, I like the Family Guy game. But a lot of the PSP games won't really run that great. They'll run on the Odin Portal, but I don't have a lot of experience with them because I have shittier systems that just can't run them. Doesn't really run PSP. Most of my systems are good through about PS1. Yeah, Space Invaders. Although I don't play that as much because it doesn't have the same one I had when I was a kid. It's a little different. Asteroids, we had Asteroids too. Leisure Suit Larry, I think I have that, but I don't think I've ever loaded it. Leisure Suit Larry, God, that one. Although I did get one Wii game to boot up on it on the Odin Portal, so it's strong enough to run up to Wii. But I don't know any of those games. Again, that's my kids' era. That's not my era. So I have zero interest in that stuff. I'm way more into original arcade, or Amiga, and like Super NES, and actually, some of the Game Boy games, once you dress it up, because you don't have to stick with the plain screen. You can actually change the colors on the screen. Once you do that, they actually can be kind of nice, kind of fun. But you've got to do like LCD overlays, setting that shader up with the black frame insertion makes everything look nice and crisp and clean. So there's, it can be a decent platform. But again, that Game Boy came out when I'm an adult. It's like I'm not playing any of that stuff. Frogger. God, I had Frogger. We had that game. I literally had that arcade game in my basement. And so that's always a fun one. You don't realize how tall that vertical screen was. It was a it's like a really tall vertical. Yeah, we had that. We had Centipede. We had Frogger. We had, Galaga. We had Asteroids. We had a whole bunch of games. My dad bought out an arcade in like '84 when they were in freaking free fall and they were all going bankrupt. He bought out like 10 games for like $500, like $50 a game. Retro arcade games and guitars. There you go. Exactly. Pew pew pew. Cubert. Oh God, Cubert. Burger Time. Yeah, God, Burger Time. Crank up the FB Alpha. Sure. Final Burn Neo. But what I can't do is I can't really do the Commodore 64 games. Didn't really play enough of them, and they're just so rudimentary. It's like trying to fire up the old Atari 2600 games. They just look like garbage. Just because they're so old. I really like the arcades, the 16-bit platforms, the arcades, Amiga, Super NES. Even NES can be pretty good because they had some tricks to get around it. Where it gets a little weird is when you get to like PlayStation and they have to emulate Memory Stick because Sony's trying to sell memory sticks to everybody. There's all kinds of stuff. And I tell you, another platform that's a little tricky to emulate too is Nintendo 64 because they had so much proprietary hardware. That can get a little tricky too. But the Odin can run through it, but a lot of my other systems, they're too weak. They really can't handle it. Pitfall. I loved friggin' Pitfall. Oh yeah, Super Metroid. And then what's that? It's a whole franchise, a Mega Man. The whole Mega Man franchise. There's some of them that just go on forever. Yeah, Punch Out with Mike Tyson. Oh God, I remember that. Always preferred Sega for game platforms. Yeah, it's interesting. If you look at like say the Addams Family game, I feel like Amiga and Sega have the identical graphics, but if you go to Super NES, it's a different graphic set. Just like how they render certain elements is completely different than how they handle it in Sega and Amiga. Kind of weird. We are coming up on the end of the show. We got about 4 minutes left. I know, where did the time go? Where did the time go? Come see Uncle John's band. Yeah, see, Sonic the Hedgehog, again, came out a little bit later. So I never really got into that. I never really even got into Mario, except for, you know, the original Mario, which is Donkey Kong. ColecoVision, Intellivision. Remember Intellivision? By Magnavox. I got all those platforms, but they're disappointing. Really, on the old school, and I've gone through all of them. Really, arcade, Super Nintendo, Sega, what they call Mega Drive, which is Genesis. It was marketed as Genesis in America, but everywhere else was Mega Drive. Could have been just a thing that they couldn't get the trademark. And then the other one was TurboGrafx, which was marketed as like PC machine or something like that. You know what I'm saying? It was like a different name everywhere else but the United States, where it was rebranded as Genesis. Yeah, good. Yeah, the old Mattel. God. Crazy. Pac-Man. Did we have Pac-Man? We might have had Pac-Man. Because my dad would only get games that he recognized. And then once he ran out of probably 5 of them he recognized, like Frogger, you know, and Centipede and things like that. All the other ones, I think the guy just suggested it to him, but he got Asteroids and Space Invaders. And Space Invaders had a glass front, which they stopped doing that pretty quickly. I guess too many smashed glasses, too many smashed window panes. Yeah, PC Engine. PC Engine, yeah. Exactly. Outside of the U.S. It's like PC Engine everywhere else. The best one for Amiga that I used to love was called Out of This World. I finished that game. Out of This World is one of the few games I finished, and the other one was like Shadow of the Beast 2. Never finished Shadow of the Beast or Shadow of the Beast 3, but Shadow of the Beast 2, I did complete that game. Yeah, Dig Dug, geez. See, Dig Dug reminds me of Commodore 64, because I'm pretty sure we had it. So I always equate Dig Dug with like lower quality, but the arcade game is actually pretty nice. Have a good one, Assad. Yeah, Duck Hunt with the NES Zapper, which was crazy technology at the time, right? But it worked. Yeah, Rampage. Yeah. Got all of them. Oh my God, it's 9 p.m. All right, dudes. It's time to call it a week. Check out Monday's video. It's going to be a good one, I think. I should have that guitar here. I haven't shot it yet, which is rare for me. Usually by now that's already done. But I'm going to have to shoot it tomorrow because I haven't had a chance. But it'll be out Monday. It will definitely be out Monday. So check that out on Monday. You guys have a wonderful week. We'll do it all again in a week. You guys have a great week. And there you go. No, you rock. All right, I'm out of here. it's time to go, quite frankly, hit the head. All right. Have a great week. I'll see you next week. And there you go. No, you rock. All right. I gotta prep for my end here. Here we go. All right. I'm off. Later.